Okay, guys, welcome to another edition of My Hollywood Life. And of course, My Hollywood Life is not about the glitz and glam of Hollywood. It is about a small town Canadian girl like myself just making her way in Hollywood. And so I love to interview and introduce to you really interesting people that help you with life. And that's really what it's all about. It's the relationships we have with each other, it's the connections we make with each other, it is the things that we've learned from each other. And this lady is quite phenomenal. I got a copy of her book, which I hate to say that I haven't read it all yet because it is a thick book. So in my defense, I have been reading it. It's just, it is a good read, but a long read. And it is called Do You Quantum Think? And the author is Dianne Collins. And she is just knock your socks off, phenomenal writer, beyond her time, and cutting edge. I almost see her as being maybe even a quantum physicist type person. Maybe she could have been in another life. But I read this part of this book already, and I feel like that's how I think. And I thought, wow, someone put this into actual terms that says this is what I actually do every day. I just didn't know how to name it or put it into words. But I'm really anxious to hear from her perspective how we quantum think. So welcome to the show, Dianne.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I love the way that you just introduced, of course, flattered, but yes, it's interesting that you said that you think that way and that now someone put it into words, because that's actually what came to me is that we were living in at least two realities. Of course, there are infinite realities, so many realities, right, that we're all living in. But when you look at the collective, that there was what people call the 3D reality, the consensus reality, where we're wondering why are people not connecting and expressing from the heart and our multidimensionality. And then there was this other reality that was kind of underground, right? That actually I wrote a blog about that on the Huffington Post, and it went viral, called There's a New Mainstream Out There and You're Probably Part of It. And I call it the consciousness crowd. So those of us who want to have a higher consciousness, who want to have a more awakened awareness, who want to live a masterful life, who know that we're multidimensional beings, and that we can communicate in many ways through what I call the 5 natural faculties of mind. And I thought, you know what? I was always showing people, quote, a new world view. And then I realized that the science, I'm not a quantum physicist, maybe I was in a past life because I kind of do relate to it, but that the science was talking about this emerging new worldview that is really the quantum worldview, as distinct from the mechanical industrial age worldview from the 17th century. So, of course, we know all of our technology is based in the quantum discoveries. So I thought, well, how does that affect thinking? And I thought, if I could put this, why don't I just put this all together in a system of principles that are based in discoveries of quantum science and spiritual wisdom, universal wisdom common to all mastery traditions, and make it modern and hip and popular and most importantly, Michelle, usable, accessible in modern life, so that we become the walking, talking embodiments of the more expanded, more up-to-date, this emerging new worldview that paradoxically it's emerging and we're the ones bringing it about. So that's eventually culminated in Do You Quantum Think, the book.
But I really like that because one word that you said was useful, because that's the thing with when you pick up a book that is called Do You Quantum Think, you're thinking, this sounds a little too sci-fi, a little too scientific. However, when you get reading it, you think these are tools that I can use in my life every day. It's not something that I have to go preach and meditate and sit on the mountaintop by myself for weeks at a time in, a monastery or whatever, and hide away to learn these secrets on how to live more spiritually, more in connection with our soul, have mind, body, and soul connected. And that's really what it's about. I know it sounds, I call it airy fairy to say, mind, body, and soul connection, but it's so true. We're almost going through what I say is being the drones, on autopilot, and we forget about all the other things that are so important with that connection with ourselves and how it relates to relating to other people. Because if you think about how we relate to other people, it's intuitive, it's quantum thinking, it is all of those things. And so you really put it all into a nutshell in this book, and it's like a manual. It's something that people should have at their bedside when they come home from maybe a stressful day's work, and they say, that situation was a little difficult, and I don't know if I handled it correctly. I don't know if I was in the right mindset to deal with that, if everything was in alignment. And I'm sure that they could look in here in the table of contents and find exactly what they need to read or reread to find out what had happened in that situation. And
Well, you know what? First of all, I love everything, you're obviously very tuned in, that you could open it to any page.
yeah,
And this has, because according to your intent, and this is one of the most, what I consider the most important, quote, discoveries of modern science, is the idea of non-local mind, that the universe is non-local, meaning it's not located in what we think of as ordinary physical space, or it doesn't work in chronological time. As you know, chronological time is useful, and that's something we lay over that state, which is beyond time. That's one of the 21 plus one, as I call them, quantum think distinctions in the system. But I wanted, so literally you open I was laughing because a lot of people tell me they keep that book by their bedside. And you said, oh, you keep it by your bedside. And you open it anywhere. We should try it during this conversation we're having. And according to your intent, you will always get the exact message that you want. We've tested this so many times. And when I say we, I'm talking about my partner, who is my husband and partner in all things, Quantum Think Master Coach, Dianne Collins. I like to always mention that. So we have actually, way before my book came out, we've been presenting Quantum Think in mostly teleconference programs for more than 15 years. In many ways, in companies, to the general public, even in agencies of the United States government, in schools. And the reason that so I know it works, and then I thought, well, let me put it in the book so everyone can have access. But what I wanted to get to that is very important, which you pointed to, and I know you haven't read everything yet. Don't scare people. It's meant to be read slowly, a little at a time. But what I call my great revelation. And I was growing up, and you think, why is there such a great discrepancy in the world between how we aspire to be, how we want to live the virtues, we want to live in that, non-judgmental, compassionate, right? Connected, knowing that we're all of the same heart. And yet you look in the headlines and it's not like that. So you come across, as you think, so you become. This is said in every mastery tradition. The Buddha said, all is mind. All that you are is a result of what you've thought. It's in the Bible. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And so on in the Upanishads, the ancient scriptures of India. And of course, I was a philosophy major. Aristotle said it. The great literarians have said it. Many people realize this because this is something that's self-evident knowledge. As you think, so you become. What you hold in a mind, in consciousness, in awareness on a habitual sense becomes your reality, literally. And so I thought, well, if all you had to do was change your thought to change your life, to change the world, why does it still look like it does? So that was what led me to what I call the discovery, which is the distinction that quantum thing is. And that is that everything in the universe is a system, right? The numbers, that's a system, which can be, as you know, and you're the expert. I've been listening to some of your interviews and shows. I love the way that you explain and work with numerology.
Thank you.
And I'm a student of astrology, for many years. So they always match up. And so we know it's a universe of systems. And even in the human made, it's systems. Supermarkets a system, the roads are a system. And thinking is a system. And so if your thoughts create your reality, the question becomes, what's creating your thinking? And so though we imagine we think freely, and in every moment we have the opportunity to choose our thought, but to the extent, and you mentioned it, of which we are automatically conditioned, and that we have these habits of thinking, habits of emoting, habits of relating, to that extent, we're not actually at true awakened choice in our thinking. But so this is what I discovered, is that our thinking is based in the prevailing assumptions, beliefs, ideas of the worldview, very simply. The nature of reality, how it works, what we're capable of, what's possible, what's not. So we're in a quantum age, and we're still, unbeknownst to most of us, because it's kind of silently in the background of our culture, very much conditioned by what I lovingly call the old worldview, the industrial worldview. It was called mechanical, classical mechanical worldview. So I say, not to insult, but in many ways, at that stage of human development, of human evolution, we became mechanical too. You said autopilot.
That's
Other
right.
thinkers from the 30s, they used to say, oh, mechanical man, mechanistic man. But the point is that we all know now that we're in a time of evolution, unlike any we've witnessed or known, that the time is an evolution in consciousness. So what came through me, Michelle, and it really, I say, I didn't wake up one day and say, hey, I think I'll, invent a new system of thinking called quantum thing. It's not really new, but it's new to people when you bring it into your awareness in the present sense of that. But it's like I got the tap on the shoulder. Okay, get this out. And I had been trained for it. We continue to be trained by universal intelligence throughout our lives, so that we're always expressing our purpose in a still another higher octave of our own awareness and development. So when you look at the two realities, the industrial worldview reality and the quantum worldview reality, these are very, very different. But the main difference, and this is why do we consider, interdimensional communication, weird, or we call it la la, or whatever people call it. You're in LA. I have relatives there working in the industry, by the way. But anyway, so I like to go and visit there too. That why do we consider those things alternative? Subtle energy healing, the use of our intuition, which is one of the most important faculties of mind that we're all born with, because the old world view said only physical matter is real. That's what the scientists declared. Now, some people say that was because they wanted to separate themselves off from the clergy, from the church. And so they said, you take care of the spirit. If there is such a thing. Now, they were spiritual too, these scientists like Newton and the rest, but they concentrated on the physical, like, let's examine, what is this, reduce it, it's called reductionist, to its constituent parts, figure out how they work together in a cause and effect way, and we'll be able to predict and control nature. Well, Without the proper instrumentation, objects look solid, objects look fixed. You had to push on something to get something to happen. Okay, I look at not the science so much as how did that shape thinking? And if you translate matter, physical matter, as circumstances for us as ordinary human beings, we became, quote, in some many ways, victims of circumstance, victims of what already exists, what's in the physical dimension. The physical dimension looks static and fixed. So when we go to say, well, what do I want in my life right now? Everybody's asking that question because we're in this, tumultuous but beautiful time, terrific and terrifying at the same time of evolution and transformation. And you look and say, what can I create in my life now? And the stuck points can be where you're still conditioned by the circumstances, where, or I say it very simply for the youth, for young minds like us, old worldview, circumstance rules. New worldview, intent rules, because the big paradigm shift was from a matter-based reality to a mind-based reality. That's the quantum worldview. Oh, the universe is not like a giant machine. It's more like a giant mind. So that's, mind, not just the cognitive click, 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 but what we hold in consciousness, what we hold in awareness, the faculties of mind, intent, intuition, subtle energy, resonance, meditation. This is the clay. This is what we've been given to create with. So now it's like, wow, that's exciting. That's where your professions, put an S on that, become very important for people to tune into, to learn about, to understand, because these are the things that form the basis of life. And this is what gives us access to mastery. So I said a lot, but I wanted to give that big preamble to realize the foundation of what we're talking about is we have a bigger container now to include what is non-visible, non-auditory, non-tangible, and yet that's the basis of life.
It's so true. Like I said in the beginning before we were talking, I said that to you. I said, this is how I think. And then I'm reading this book thinking, she put my life into words. And it's so true about the autopilot. And the way I put it into words is that if your dad was a doctor, you're going to be a doctor. And if your parents were poor, you're probably going to be poor. And it's the whole thing about being on autopilot, circumstance, and being taught that under certain conditions, those will be your circumstances. And what about the people who, like The Rock, that actor
Right.
he came with like $7 in his pocket, and if he were based on circumstance, he would think, wow, I'm poor, I'm never going to be anything or go anywhere. And that's not the quantum thinking portion of it. And I think that that's a huge change, and I think it's even more scary in terms of finding what it is you want to do and deciding what it is you want in your life. Because back when it was on autopilot and when people were conditioned, you just already knew. You went to school, you were the dentist that your dad was, you were the doctor that your mom was, you were whatever it is that your family went, you took over the family business, and you had your life already laid out in front of you by the time you were a little kid. And now we have this, oh my goodness, I can be whatever I want to be. And that's a scary thing for a lot of people who had traditionally grown up with households or parents who did exactly that, followed in their parents' footsteps and had their lives mapped out. So we're kind of the first forerunners, so to speak, of doing this whole quantum thinking concept and being able to say, well, you know what? I like the idea of a life coach. However, I like to do this, this, and this as well. So I'm going to make some sort of a hybrid career that encompasses all of these things, and I'm going to call myself, I don't know, some sort of random, weird title that has never been made before. but it's super cool and it makes you highly successful. And so that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing so many people taking, because if you think about even 10 years ago, everyone was a life coach, everyone was a Reiki practitioner, and now everyone is their own little hybrid position that is, and it just seems so cool because you meet people on the street and they're like, well, what do you do? And they say, oh, I do this. And you think, wow, what the heck is that? But that sounds really cool. So,
Right.
so they're really getting the hang of it slowly but surely and knowing that they have the sky's the limit and they can create whatever they want. So it's getting there, but books like yours are really gonna put a big jump forward for these kinds of people. If they can get their hands on a book like this, quantum thinking, that
Thank
is huge.
you.
I mean, they can really say, I'm starting to think like this, but I didn't really realize that I was only in the beginning stages and that there's so much more to it and it can take me even further. It's like, to me, this seems like the next step to the law of attraction. It's like, what you think about, you bring about, yes. But is that all there is to it? Absolutely not. And so this takes you that much further. It takes you well beyond any of that. So
That's exactly right.
I would
Because
call it that. I would, if I had a subtitle for that, that's what it would be called. It would be the next key to the law of attraction.
it is, it's a lot more because you're looking at, what is the actual at the edge of discovery today, because everything is always evolving. And you look to say, well, if I want to create something, then it's very logical. I need to know the dynamics of creation that we have been divinely bestowed with by virtue of human birth. And that's really when you get into what are the dynamics of mind. And then it becomes, uh, well, I call it the unofficial official mantra of quantum think. When you master your mind, you master your life. And it doesn't mean mind control. It means having a relationship with those five natural faculties of mind, with these principles that are the basic operating principles that operate throughout nature and therefore within you and me. And so what happens when you read Do You Quantum Think? It's not like I know something and you don't. It's that you're connecting to that principle in you, or it's not really exactly inside because it's like we're traveling in this giant mind, this giant intelligent, energetic, conscious universe. So we're connecting, and we can connect, as you pointed out. We have infinite possibility. That's the number 3 principle in quantum thinking, the quantum think system. Infinite possibility. Now, because it's a both and world, so the old worldview kind of trained us to the either or. Is it a particle or a wave? Is it, your way or my way? Is it conservative or progressive? And so you can see that conditioning and that mechanism, how it plays out in life. But when you start to go to the quantum worldview, what is energy? It's both a particle and a wave. And you map that onto human thinking. And you know that while we can choose, we can manifest any possible human trait. But you and I know, because of again, that calling that you have, that to know the patterning that we're born when we incarnate, and we have that soul blueprint. Or I do it through astrology. I'm not an astrologer, but I call myself an avid student of astrology because I feel the energy cycles, if you tune into them, the planetary cycles and what's going on now, that it helps. I use it in my work in the background. I never have to mention astrology. But if you attune yourself to the cycles and you work with the energy, you work with the intelligence of the universe. So getting back to the both and idea, and what you said, Michelle, it's true. People think, oh my God, I could do anything, that's scary. But it's not. It's the both and of it is to discover the patterning. Will give you the clues, the patterning that you've had throughout your life, And there is a distinction in quantum thing called the holo movement of purpose. We'll explain it in a moment. But it's to distinguish your purpose. And your purpose is not one thing, it's like nature. It has myriad, thousands, millions of different expressions. So you're looking at, I had the destiny, the age old, right? I was a philosophy major in college, the free will and destiny. It's both. So you've got that destinal blueprint that I know you tune your clients into. And at the same time, it's a blueprint. So just like a blueprint of a house, well, what are you going to build? This is where the wall goes, but what material will I use for that wall? Will it be stone? Will it be wood? And etc. And it's like that in our lives. And this is why it's very important to have a consciously awakened relationship with your own mind, with your own thinking, to see what's conditioning it. And I could do a short exercise before we close to give people access to it right now. Because then when you look at these patterns in the distinction, the whole movement of purpose, what it means is that there is this movement that of things becoming, it was by the late great physicist David Bohm. And he said that everything is interconnected as one continuous whole, but we don't see it that way because there was this ebb and flow, this outward expression and inward. He called the explicate order, what we see right now, what's going on in your life now, and the implicate order, that it goes back in and folded into the background of your life. So I say it like this: think of your life as one whole story, like a well-written novel or screenplay. That there's nothing in the story that's left out, and there's nothing in it that doesn't belong. And what you see, because everything in nature happens in patterns, that's numerology, right? That's astrology. That's many other of the systems, the new one, human design system, you might know. And so these things that that are revealed through us, and then we give that's sort of our gift that we've been given, that we give to the rest of us, so we can all use this and make it practical in everyday life, because this physical world is multidimensional, but we're living in the ordinary world every day where, we want to make money, we want to have great relationships, we want to have a nice, dwelling, and we want people to be happy. We want to be happy. We want to be spiritual connection and have recreation and fun and all the other things. We want everything. And I think we're here to have everything. And we're here in this time to master it. So when you're looking at your purpose, and I love what you said, Michelle, because I read somewhere in my investigation of you that when you said, if you follow your passion, you'll discover your purpose. You wrote that somewhere on your website, right? And I thought, oh, that is such a great line. And I wanted to remember it in this conversation, because when you find, what was I passionate about? I wanted to show people, no, you can do it this way. You don't have to be stuck with that. Look at this and look at this. And that's like whether I was, 10 years old, 15 years old, 25, and so on. You're always doing that. So this is what I mean by you find those patternings. I know you're with numbers, and you said you used to be in the banking. It's like numbers, right? Financial. Now you're on the lottery. This is how it works, right? You're on the lottery website.
Yeah, they follow me everywhere. And I have to stop you there before I forget, because it's so true what you said about the fact that it's what pattern you have. It's your blueprint, because you're given part of your life is destiny. It is really true. Most, New Age thought people, or, there's a lot of people out there, I call them the airy fairy people, the ones that have taken the New Age spirituality a little bit too far, and it's almost like its own cult in its own right. And not to judge, but I'm just saying, for me, I like practical spirituality. I like to know that as long as I have this human body, I'm still going to need to live real life, and I'm still going to need to do the things that I need to do in the physical world. Plus, I still want to have all of the mind, body, soul in alignment with each other, in conjunction with each other, because the mind is a tool to allow us to express the soul, and likewise the body is the same way. But it is so true when you say it is the blueprint, because when I tell people, for example, when I do numerology readings, I tell them this is the energy or the pattern that you have to work with. But what do you want to create with it? Because
Right.
there are so many nines in the world. There are so many eights. There are so many threes. I'm a three.
I'm a three.
Right. And I mean, we were talking about 11 just before we went on air. And, for example, Madonna's an 11. And so is Obama and his wife, Michelle. But they're vastly different people, and they have different pathways. And they've created something vastly different in their lives. However, they do share common patterns within themselves. So they do have a blueprint, but their houses look completely different by the time they've created all the little details. Like maybe they didn't want granite countertops; they wanted marble, or that kind of thing. So yeah, they're all 11s, but they didn't create the same house. So I totally get what you're saying, and it is all about what do you want to create with your energy, because you do have a specific energetic pattern, like everything else in existence, but you get to choose now. It's not like before where, well, my dad was a dentist or he has this business and so I should be doing that because that's what's expected of me. Now it's like, okay, well, here is your energy pattern. Go for it.
Yeah. And that's why
And
it's,
that's scary. And everyone's like, what? And they really don't know what to do with it. So that's where we come in. That's where we come in with, your book, Quantum Do You Quantum Think? And that's where I come in with the numerology. And I love that you use astrology too, because I do believe that they're all intertwining. It's all the same way to see the same truth. We're all preaching the same truth, and we all have different truths, but there is a universal truth. And I think that we build from that blueprint. So there is like a universal destiny type blueprint, and then we get to build our own detailed finished product from that particular blueprint that is branched off from that blueprint. I know that sounds
yeah, that makes perfect sense.
a
And
little
again,
complicated.
I'm just, I like to refer to the principles because I know you wanted me to talk a little about my book. So I said we would bring it into
Yeah.
more practical conversation. But in conscious evolution, which is number 17 of 21 in Quantum Think, where you look at what you just distinguished, which is you have your own personal evolution, you have your soul's evolution, you have your worldly evolution. What role do I play in this lifetime? In living my purpose? We have the universal, what you're talking about, that collective evolution, that it's bigger than both of us, Ollie, right? Where there is an unfolding, there's an evolution of the whole ball game, the whole shebang that we're part of. And I think, right now, when you and I are talking about people living their purpose, and people want to live their purpose because that's the pulsation that we're feeling now, as this world, this earth at least, and I don't know that much about the rest of the universe, well, we could tune in, right? But let's just say, in a practical sense, life on earth, and that we know because of the way that the acceleration of change, which is a scientific fact, and with the increasing complexity of choice and the amazing technologies that have brought us all together, that the institutions that we've been living in, education, the medical, the political, all of it, has been born under the industrial age way of thinking. And that's where you see this great divisiveness, and you see the systems breaking down. Now, you probably know in astrology, we're in the 16-year period of a Pluto in Capricorn, which Pluto is the planet of transformation. and collectively, and it always filters back to us individually, and that Capricorn rules systems and structures. So it happened that came in 2008 when Obama became president,
I'm a
just about
Capricorn.
exactly the same time. What you
I'm a
were?
Capricorn. Yes. I'm a Capricorn with a Scorpio moon. If you
Oh,
like, that's
she
quite a
knows
compliment.
everything. Anyone who wants to know anything, call Michelle
No,
because
no, no, I just wanted to mention because I thought it's so true because I'm a system buster. So I love that you said that because I didn't know that it was a Capricorn thing going on right now, but I kind
oh, yeah, that's what's going on. So count 16 years from 2008. So we're in the middle of it now. And so this is why people shouldn't really freak out, because you can look and say, "Oh my God, this isn't working. The financial system isn't working. This isn't working." Well, what is being revealed is what isn't any longer sufficient for this emerging new world that we're all trying to make a better world together, and for the purpose of making it better. That's what my astrology teacher says. She's Brenda Brush. I'd like to mention her. Wonderful, who teaches about these cycles. That it's Pluto always brings up for the purpose of making it better. Now, that doesn't mean we sit back and the planets do it for us, as you and I are saying. You
right.
have to take action. It's not like, oh, I think something and it manifests. Well, maybe there have been some great yogis who can actually do that, but I don't know whether any of us are up to that task yet. So in the meantime, we have to take action consistent with our intent. But getting back to this Pluto, so what you're seeing is we're seeing the breakdown of the aspects of our societal systems and structures that are no longer effective, that have reached their level of effectiveness. Why? So that we now need, people say, why do we need new thinking? That's why. It's the old Einstein, I call it the modern day mantra. This say we cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking that created them. So the level of thinking of the industrial age will not either or linear, step by step, push on circumstances to get something to happen. That is no longer the most effective. It includes, we're not trading in one for another. We know how to be analytical. We know how to go step by step. We know how to use chronological time. We know how to categorize. We've learned, we've disciplined the sciences, all from that level of thinking. But there's the greater thinking, which is of the quantum age. And that is what we need to implement now, employ now in our own lives and collectively. But again, let's not to freak out, to be happy that, wow, okay, that isn't working in my life anymore. I just have to add one thing to this, that one of the other cycles is Uranian cycle, Uranus and Aries. We're in the middle of that too, maybe even more into. It's a 7-year cycle. And it's all about coming forth with a new expression, because it has to do with the identity. Aries is the key words, I am. So it's like this is the pulse that I was speaking about a few minutes ago. People are feeling like, I want to do something new. Or it's not like you're throwing out, everything you've built over the past 10 years or what you've been developing in yourself, within yourself and in the outer world, in your profession. And you said the word hybrid. It's like putting it all together
Right.
in a new way. Just what you said. And
Yes.
then and knowing you have infinite creativity right now, and that we all do need to differentiate, so that life coaches, there are thousands and maybe hundreds of thousands. So how do you differentiate? It's very important, I think, right now, for every one of us to truly connect to that which we have been given, the gifts, the proclivities, the passions, the propensities, the talents, the experiences. We're given experiences that help us. And some of them along the way, you think, why was I that? Why was I a banker, right? And
Yes.
I was in corporate life. Why did I have that? Because I
Yeah.
know what corporate culture is like. I can present quantum thing to corporate executives, which by the way I do, because I have an experience of that culture. I know what it's like. So but when you're in it, you think, wait a minute, I just want to create a television series that elevates consciousness as you watch. That really is still my dream. Thinking, why am I here? And then you realize when you're looking at the life as one whole story, oh, I needed that experience to get me where I am now.
Right. Yes, I truly, truly resonate with you 110%. And it's interesting you said Aries because I tell you, I must be right where I'm supposed to be. And I do believe that. I believe everyone is, there's always a, what do I call it? Everything happens for a reason. We're not in this point in time haphazardly. And I was saying I was a Capricorn with a Scorpio moon, and my ascendant or rising sign is Aries. So there
Ah,
you go.
there you go.
There you
Now,
go.
you see, there's a connection right here in this conversation.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
I brought up that term non-locality, non-local mind field, is that the mind is a field. I like to call it now that we're in the thotosphere, because here we are connecting, right? And we're in this very important conversation, and we refer to ourselves, but it's really so everyone else can refer to themselves. We all reflect each other. One of my great meditation teachers says, this world is a palace of mirrors, because we're all reflecting to one another.
Yes.
And so here I didn't bring up the Scorpio. I could have. That's going on too. But where the exact, like, as you say, that is not an accident. So what the non-local mind field discovery is, and the chapter in Quantum Think is intuition and non-locality. That why does intuition work? How is it that we're able to connect into information at a distance from us? It has nothing to do with physical limitation, because mind, non-locality, it's not local to our body or our brain. Brain is a transmitter of mind. And it's not located. That's what it means. Not located in the sense of a physical object like this glass that I'm drinking from. So because mind is not restricted by ordinary physical space or chronological time, that means it can go anywhere. Now, the way I think of it, Michelle, it doesn't really go. It connects, like the internet. Where do
Yes.
you go? Where's the internet? That's the infinite mind of humanity, right? The good, the bad, the ugly, and the sublime.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where, what is the reality? It's whatever you click your finger on or your mouse, right?
Mhm.
So it's like that. What are we clicking into? We're clicking into when you have an intent for something. And I make a distinction between intent and intention. Intention being an end goal, measurable, intent being the activation of the energy intelligent field. So
That's a
you
good
can
point.
act, yeah, it's
I've never,
different.
I've never heard of that referred that way, but that is an actually really a great point because I think people would not get that if you said intent or intention and say, yeah, that's the same thing. But that is so true because if you do set an intent, it is like putting it into motion, whereas an intention is saying, I want that Bentley. But
Right.
the intent is saying, putting it into action as, well, how am I going to get that Bentley? And imagining that and thinking about getting that Bentley and putting it into that intent mode and setting the wheels in motion. Because I think that's what people forget the most when they're doing the law of attraction. And why it doesn't work is because they forget the action part. You can think about it all day long, but if you're not taking steps toward it, then there's no intent there really.
That's right. Because even if, see, we tend to think of intent as, I just want to say what I call the new worldview of learning, the art of distinguishing. So that it's to bring something into your awareness in the present moment, right now, in such a way that it alters your relationship to it. So we just, that just happened, right?
That's right.
So it's not like it's the truth. The fundamentally in the quantum worldview is there's no absolute fixed way that something is. That's what gives us the ability, the capability to create, in at least in the capacity as human beings. So it's that difference between intent and intention, because we're brought up under the industrial age thinking, which was cause and effect was the dynamic. It wasn't quantum field effect. It was cause and effect. So people who are trying to do the law of attraction, they think, okay, um, I have an intention, and it's going to magically appear because you're thinking of cause and effect, like there's a direct linear straight line linkage. That was the mechanical worldview. Press on that and that moves. I have a thought and that moves. Well, your thought does have an effect, but it's important to think of intent. I learn it like more in the shamanic sense, where you're activating a probability wave field. It sounds technical, but it's not, because you think there's infinite possibility. Where does it narrow it down? According to our intent. A
Right.
statement of intent, if you wanted a Bentley, might be, I'm, I'm delighted that I am always driving the car that I want to drive. Now, your whole being knows you want the Bentley. So, how does it show up? Now, is that a statement to go in our earlier part of the conversation? Is it based on circumstance? Is the Bentley in your garage right now? No.
No.
But you can start to think that to be in the vibration of I'm always happy with what I'm driving. And the intelligence that you're working with knows you want that Bentley. So then what happens? Then you have the practice of allowing, where allowing for what you can see, as you said, how's that Bentley going to show up? Well, there may be steps along the way, and it may have to do with your business and how you're making money and these opportunities that come your way. But what happens is you'll start to see the opportunities and take the action. As you pointed out, if you don't take the action,
Yes,
you're kidding yourself,
that's right.
because we're physical beings. We're always in action in some way.
Hmm.
That's life. It's in constant movement.
Right.
So then that's where you get the command and the fun. But that's where, so the non-local mind, what the intuition, all these things now are being proven in quantum science. The Institute of Noetic Sciences that Edgar Mitchell, the Apollo 14 astronaut, founded many years ago to study the nature of consciousness, because he went into space, he tells the story, and he had that experience. Everything is alive with consciousness. He had like a Satori experience.
Wow.
Couldn't explain it because he was an engineer. He was that strict, scientific. And he said, started to look it up and thought, we need to understand this, because he had the experience. And so these, when you start to look at, as I said, I'm not a scientist. I look at how can we use these discoveries so that we can be more joyful in our own life. That's really what it's all about. So, and that means seeing ourselves. I think, Michelle, I want to know what you think about this, of being that we're in a time to really step into being the masters. Like, we
Yes,
study the masters, we love the masters, but I think each one of us is a master in our own right.
in our own world. Yes, I think that we are masters of our destiny to some extent. Like you say, I think we come in with the blueprint, but we are still masters of our destiny because we can shift that destiny to some degree, to a big degree. I mean, if you think of a blueprint for a house, it's pretty basic. I mean, you're talking about framing and structure. So yeah, you might be. You know, I always talk in numbers because I'm a numerologist. So let's say you're a 9. Yeah, you're a 9. Okay, cool. But there are infinite ways that you can express the qualities of that 9. So you are like your own master of your own destiny. So it's so true. We've always been that. It's just that we're becoming finally conscious of the fact that we are. So that's the beauty of it, but that's also the scariest part and why people are having such a hard time bridging the gap. And I call the fourth dimension, and I know this sounds airy-fairy, but if you think about how we operate in the human world, it's we are thinking, feeling, or doing something. And that's how autopilot used to be, was that's how the world operated. We were thinking, feeling, doing, and we lived our lives that way. Now all of a sudden we have this fourth level where we're looking beyond that. We're looking down upon this thinking, feeling, doing, but from a conscious perspective to say, wait a second, what am I really thinking? What am I really feeling? And what am I really doing? And then we realize that we have control over what we are really thinking, feeling, and doing. So yes, I totally agree with you that it is that master thing becoming our own ability, but it's not in the egotistical sense. It's in the fact that that is our birthright and all of our birthrights to be those masters.
That's exactly it. But we've and I think this is the time now. You know, I wrote in Do You Quantum Think, you know, there are always this small group of what I call the spiritual elite, you know, like these were the master beings, you know, we're the masters and you're not. But they didn't say that.
No,
They said, you can be, you know, right? Jesus said that. You can be like me and even more so.
right,
And this is what every, you know, every self-realized being, as we call it, with a capital S, this is the idea of it, is that you're not here to worship someone. You're here, you can revere them. You're here, they're here as a teacher to
right,
activate that in you. And as
yeah,
you say, every person can be their own master of their own destiny and how that plays out. You know, I had this astrology, one of my great mentors, a psychic astrologer. She's still around. I better call her. She's still around. She's in her 90s. And she used to say, you're born with the ability to wield a knife. Will you become a butcher, a murderer, a sculptor, or a surgeon? So
yeah.
this is what you're talking about, right? Like
Hang on,
you're
Diane.
born a 9.
Hang
How
on,
will you use the
hang
energy of the 9?
on, Diane, because I can hear the phone ringing in the back. So just we'll pause it and then I can clip this part out because the
Okay.
phone's ringing. I forgot to unplug the phone during, so just hang on and we'll let it do its thing, and then you can keep on. So I can just clip out that part. It'll be seamless, but it'll. There we go. All right, keep going.
Are you sure? You did you turn it back on?
Oh, let me unplug it. Hold on. Just let me unplug it, and then it will be. Yeah. Hold on. There we go. All right, go ahead. Yes. So
Where
we'll.
were we? Right. This idea of that's why it
But what I wanted to do, Diane, was we'll wrap it up in a second, and then I'm going to. Um,
you wanted to talk about money.
I do, but I'm thinking we should do like a second part, right? Because this is
Okay.
like, you know, and the only reason I say that is because people have short attention spans, and when we do
Right.
like over an hour show, people are like, you know, they don't
Oh,
want.
I'm totally agree.
So
Complete.
why can we do
Even this you can break in to two.
do like part two? So what I'll do when I put the intro into it, I'm going to do it as a part one of quantum thinking, and then we'll do a part two of quantum thinking, and we'll do it mostly around money, math.
That's good.
How can we be successful career-wise? Like tie it all into numerology, astrology, quantum thinking, money,
Great.
manifesting. Because I mean that's a huge topic for people, right? So I think this is a good intro to like, okay, what is quantum thinking, and then
Good.
we can go into.
And then talk about other things. And then if they want to know the basis, they can go back to this interview, right?
Right. So
We're
that's
gonna
like a good
leave it.
primer. So they may even include both because I want to do maybe even both on the site and say, the whole thing is about how to effectively manifest money and success, let's say, right? And how do you quantum think? So we could do like the part one, and then the part two is called something more related to like manifesting money and success, right? And this could be more just the simple, do you quantum think and how do you quantum think? Something like that. So finish what you were saying, and then maybe we can tie up the end, and we'll talk about how we can get your book, how we can, all that stuff, and then we'll schedule another hour, and then we can do the two separate parts.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yes.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about becoming master of your own destiny. And this is, how it gets back to, of course, you talk in terms of numbers and I talk in terms of mind and thinking, because if mind is the creative substance that we have to work with, because through mind is how we relate to anything. It's how we connect the subtle energy faculty of our mind. We can tune into that, the intuitive faculty of mind, all of it. And that meditative faculty, which I consider meditative faculty, a faculty of mind, a natural faculty, not just a practice. The practice gets us, more adept with it, just like anything. But it's in us. So when we say go to that still point, go to that center within yourself, this is very important to see how these 5 faculties of mind work together. Because when you're creating with the dynamic of intent, that's the active dynamic that we've been born with, that we create with to begin with, the passive dynamic being allowing, and then of course being in action with all of it. But when you, what was I going to say about that intuition? That when you create from intent, this is amazing that now my phone is ringing. Can you? Well, that's my iPad, which I have my phone off. So are we okay to go through this?
Yeah, no, we can do it. Yeah, I'll clip it and I can do just a quick little change.
But I just wanted to do the end that when you create from intent, it's very important for you to be connected to that what we call the meditative state. I call it in quantum think the 0 point state, where we're quiet inside, even though we're at the same time engaging fully active in our lives outside. But you can live in that state. So, and that's important because that's where you get the clear channel connection. Because it's like having 5 bars up on your cell phone or 2 bars. When you're in that, when you can live in that state, and you said it, Michelle, where when the feeling, what did you say? The feeling, thinking, and acting, that there's that other sense, the sense of awareness.
Right.
And the sense of awareness is that pure, unbounded, undifferentiated awareness, the transcendent self, that enables us to become aware of what's in our mind or what's entering our mind or what are we feeling. And that only in that awakened state are we actually a choice. That is what we need to be able to live masterful life now.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, this is a really good intro to, and I mean, look at this, people. This is a thick book.
Don't scare people.
Well, you know what? The thick books are always, because if you think about authors, I know I'm an author myself, and it's sometimes tough to write that thick a book, but when you have such a topic like this, I mean, you probably could have written 3 of these, and it'll be an easy read because of the fact that you'll recognize yourself in it. And that's the thing. That's the beauty of a good book, is that, wait a second, I'm thinking like this, or I started to think about this, or I know people who think like this, and their life is successful. So you're going to whip through this. You're going to take it in the bath with you. You're going to take it to the park. You're going to take it everywhere. You're going to have it on the treadmill with you, you name it, it's going to follow you until you finish it. I'm telling you, because you can't put it down. So I'm not scaring anybody, trust me.
Okay.
All I'm saying is it's chock full of exactly what you need to take the next step up as humans well, I guess souls in physical form. Really, that's what it is. It's the next step in the process of evolution, and it really is beyond its time, but it is time at the same time. So,
That's funny. You
and
know, it would be fun, Michelle, to end the show with.
yes.
For you to open, think of a question for everyone, you know, just a message for everyone, and just open and just read 2 sentences.
Okay, let me think. So if you're going to look to manifest something, if there's something you really want and you're really frustrated with not achieving it, what do you need to do? What is the missing step for you if that is the case for you? So we are on the chapter of conscious evolution. And if I'm looking at the words that I first fell on, it says, look to your own mind. That is where what we are doing here, breaking free of and releasing the mental habits that are no longer relevant. We're breaking free of the conceptual reality so we can reconnect to the heart. Hello. I mean, doesn't that sound like exactly
that works every time?
Well, that's I need to go because I'm scared now, and hear the GVs out of me. So, but we want to do a part 2 on this because this is kind of like an intro, and Dianne, you're full of phenomenal wealth on this topic, and I think for me, I'm fascinated, and I promise you, when we do part 2, I will have the whole book completed.
Good.
I think you're onto something here, and I think that this is going to do really well. I don't know how long it's been out, but I definitely think that timing is everything with certain things, and this is going to catch on like wildfire. So I hope that I can help you do that, and I hope that people who are watching this part 1 of a part 2 series that we're doing, the next part we're going to do actually with Dianne is more about manifesting part, which is the fun part, but more about manifesting success and money and achievement. And I think that people, especially the spiritual type people, they shun us a little bit for wanting those materialistic things. But you know what? I really don't feel guilty for wanting that nicer house or that Bentley or those things that I feel I deserve to have. And so I think the whole money, success, and all that stuff is a part of the whole evolution of being a soul in human form. We're here in the physical realm. We have physical things, and that's just the way it is. So I'm looking forward to having you back, Dianne.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's such a pleasure talking to you, and I'm sure part 2 is going to be off the hook crazy. And what I want to do is do the second part live, because people watching this wasn't technically live, but that's okay. Next time I want to do it live so that we can actually get a chat going and have people chatting questions as we go that you can.
Right.
So it'll be much more interactive, but I thought it would be best to do this one as a non-live show just so that they could get an intro without actually being interrupted by questions and all that jazz. So thank you again. Where can we get the book? That's most important.
We can get the book. It's in hardcover and all ebook editions. A lot of people get both because they don't want to carry 1 pound around. But it's online, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books A Million. It's in stores, many stores. If you don't have it in your local store, they can order it. So it's available everywhere books are sold.
So Google it, basically. Google this because you're going to
you can go on my website, DianneCollins.com, Dianne with 2 N's, DianneCollins. And my book is there, and you'll read about it. And the links to buy it are there. Links to Amazon and Barnes and Noble are there too, among other things.
Awesome. So Dianne with 2 N's, people, listen closely. Dianne with 2 N's and Collins with 2 L's.com. Go buy it. Go look her up on Amazon. Go to Barnes & Noble. Get a copy. You won't be disappointed. If you are, talk to me because I will tell you you're not reading it properly. You're not understanding it properly. So we'll see you again next time, Dianne, and we'll let everyone know when the second edition is going to be airing. And
great. Lots of love.
I can't wait. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.